Track and field fans, if you're not a Supporters Club member, at the end of last night's show, you missed a great call by the fake Josh Kerr. Here's what he had to say.
Hi, boys. It's your old pal here, the fake Josh Kerr. You know what? I've missed you boys. But you know, I've been busy. I got a big race tomorrow. Culmination of all my hard work. But I've been following your excellent podcast because, as you know, the fake Josh Kerr is also a Supporters Club member. Fake Josh Kerr. So, just wanted to phone in, touch base. Say I'll see you guys tomorrow. And Jonathan, remember, when you're singing along with me with the anthem, we have a king now. It's not a queen. Don't forget. All right, boys. We'll talk soon. Cheers.
What a premonition, folks. When they're singing the national anthem tomorrow, handing out the gold medals for the men's 1500, yet again, it will be the British song, but it won't be God Save the Queen.
The British song? Yeah, the British song. It's the national anthem. Last year for Jake Whiteman, it was God Save the Queen. This year for Josh Kerr in Budapest, it's God Save the King. Josh Kerr is your 2023 world champion in the 1500 meters. Second consecutive athlete from Edinburgh Athletic Club to win that title. And he did it in a virtual carbon copy of last year's world championship final, taking down Jakob Ingebrigtsen over the last 200 meters. I mean, absolute insanity. We've been talking about this race and hyping about it for about the last 12 months on this podcast. And this is why, because that's track and field at its absolute finest.
I flew over for Worlds. Robert and I here were one day together. We wanted to see this race. We've dissected this race for hours, right, leading up to this. It's the one race we all talk about. I think it shows why the 1500, it's got to be the greatest long-distance race because there's so much uncertainty. If you're Jakob Ingebrigtsen, the alpha dog, Hicham El Guerrouj, the alpha dog in the event, you can still lose. It has to go perfectly. It didn't go perfectly. We can discuss that. Once again, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, under the weather, he says. But let's not take away. Josh M.F. Kerr, your world effing champion for 1,500 meters. I mean, two guys from the same track club, John? Is that what an athletics club is? Explain this to us.
I mean, two guys from Scotland itself would be crazy because Scotland is not particularly big. It's only got a population of 5.4 million. For two different people from that country to win world titles in consecutive years, rare enough. Then they're actually both from Edinburgh, and they're both from the same club in Edinburgh. And to do it in the same way against the same athlete, I don't know. It boggles the mind. I think the only crazier thing would have been if Nava Nordas had won this race, which maybe this race was 20 meters longer, he would have. He comes by, he gets the bronze medal, 0.03 of a second behind Jakob. I don't think anyone saw that. Well, I mean, we saw Nordas as a potential medalist, but for him to be that close to Jakob, for anyone to be this close to Jakob, we've been talking about it all year. I don't think no one predicted this.
For sure not. I mean, we've had a great day for our podcast guest this year. We had Narv Nordas on the podcast. Thank you, intern Alex. You lined him up, and we thought it was a cool story. The 10K runner who's now a 1,500 meter runner. I thought, okay, maybe this guy will I didn't think he'd make the final at Worlds. I didn't think he'd get third. And afterwards, he was saying, that race is another 50. I'm your gold medalist, and that's what I want. He was talking confident. It's crazy. Two guys, from the same town in Norway?
Well, I don't think they're actually from the same town. They did, Yared Ingebrigtsen is now his coach, was Jakob's coach when he won the Olympics, but that's pretty crazy. Yared Ingebrigtsen has now coached two global medalists in the 1,500. Again, Norway's not, Norway's kind of the same. So Scotland.
3.
Oh, 3. Philip. I'm forgetting about Philip. Wow. Yared's really racking him up, huh?
And Danny Mackey of the Brooks Beast has coached a world champion. And shout out to Danny. He's not here. There's been I don't know how much I can say, a tragedy in his family. It's just, I'm sure he was extremely emotional at home. So the On Athletics Club gets a glowing write-up in the New York Times, but which U.S. group produced the first gold medalist?
Yeah, the Americans, 5th for Yared Nuguse. And afterwards he said, look, I was happy with the race. I mean, he said it beforehand. Like, I'm enjoying myself here. I honestly, sincerely think he believed that, John. He had a smile on his face the entire time. And I like his attitude. But for him, it wasn't. It's tough at this level. There's no room for error. It wasn't his best race. Cole Hocker, 7th. Neither one of those guys was really a factor on the final lap. Our other podcast guest, Niels Laros, the 18-year-old kid from the Netherlands. OMG. I mean, that guy was in contention at the bell, in contention with 200 meters to go.
He ran to win.
Yeah.
Right? And for an 18-year-old in his first global final, going up against a legend like Ingebrigtsen,
No,
he was right there going for it at the bell. He was in bronze medal position with 200 to go. Him and Abel Kipsang were battling it out. Now, he fell apart the last 100, but that's because he was running faster than he ever has. He still ran a PB, 3:31.25, Dutch record. That only got him 10th.
Look,
But it was
he
a
didn't
great
really
run.
fall apart the last 100. I would say the last 50, but what a baller race. 18 years of age, you're focused on European under 20s or under 23s, and then he PRs both in the semifinal and final, national records both time, takes a second and a half. This was crazy. I mean, you always think, and again, I use the same analogy over and over, no one can play good tennis as Roger Federer. And then there's people that are better or just as good. And I think that, I mean, you don't want to put too much pressure on someone and predict the future, but this kid is barely shaving. He's had a magnificent year. If he was the U.S. high schooler, he would have the U.S. record at 800, 1,500, 3,000, and 5,000. That is just wild. And what was cool was we had a Let's Run meetup at a bar, a stone throw from here, this afternoon at 4:00. The first people in the door were like, "Hi, who are you?" "Hi, we're Niels Laros' parents." We're like, "What the hell?" So it was so cool to talk to them. And they're like, "Well, Niels is a Let's Run baby. It was only a couple years ago. He was in the back of the car. We were on a European, we're on vacation in Europe. It's not European vacation. It's not quite a big deal when you're from Europe, but listening to the podcast, dreaming of being great. And now he's great." But I said, "Well, hey, I really think he can medal or has a shot at a medal. What's the race plan? Is he gonna play conservative and do what Nick Willis used to do, which is run his own race, never really be in the contention for the win and get a medal? Or is he going to put himself in a spot where he could win the whole thing?" And they said, the dad's like, "I got a text from the coach. He said he's got two game plans. He's debating which one to use. One was super aggressive. One was a little safer." So when Niels came through the mix zone, I said, "Your dad told me the story. Which one did you use?" He's like, "Did you watch the race?" So this kid was running to win it. I mean, he's like, obviously in any race you want to try to win, but he was 4th, 400 meters into this race. He was tied for 3rd with 200 meters to go, 4th with 100 meters to go. Incredible run. Really incredible run. Shout out to Cole Hocker. He's been injured, Achilles problems, left foot, right foot. He PRs today, takes a step back from the Olympics in terms of place. He's like, "Look, I was 6th there, I'm 7th today," but he was much happier about this. Why? Because he's like, in the Olympics, I was never in it for a medal. He's like, they were way back at 800 and he ran a fast time, but it was just about place. Here he was in a position where he, could have gotten a medal if he'd been a little bit better, but he's missed a lot of time. The thing that makes me, as someone who's had an Achilles surgery, is once you have an Achilles injury, I'm always afraid it's going to lead to surgery. He's going to mess around for a year or two. Obviously, he doesn't want to have the surgery now at the Olympics. And is he going to come back, these Achilles problems? If he has problems next year, he needs to go under the knife immediately so he can be ready for 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028. But interesting, he told me, "I want to stay with Ben Thomas. I don't want to change things for Olympic year. I'm really excited that I was able to do this on limited training this year. I'm excited for next year." But Ben Thomas is moving from Oregon to Virginia Tech. He's like, "I don't know if I'm going to move there, if I'm going to be coached remotely, if I want to go to altitude." He's like, "There's 5 or 6 different ways that Ben could end up coaching me, but I want Ben in my corner." So that's the update on Cole Hocker.
But
Well, can we go back to Josh?
Yeah,
Kerr?
we
I
need-
feel like we haven't talked about this guy enough because I will just say this from the moment he upset Edward Cheserek at the 2017 NCAA Indoor Championships, it was clear this guy was special. He didn't just beat Cheserek, he destroyed him over the last 600 meters. And I was like, that is the kind of close you can't teach. That could win a world championship medal someday. He got that Olympic bronze medal in 2021. He realized that potential. And then I was kind of thinking, like, is that as high as he goes? You know, he's a great athlete. He's going to be in the mix. I think Robert strongly felt that he was going to medal in this race, but we didn't know the gold medal. It just didn't look like it was on the table. You've got someone as good as Ingebrigtsen. I know he got beat last year, but look, Ingebrigtsen was a bigger favorite than he was last year. I was just thinking through my brain, I'm like, is there any scenario where he gets beat? I didn't consider him being sick, which I mean, people are down. They're like, oh, this is just an excuse. He's saying anything. He got beat. I don't know. I watched that race. I didn't think he looked like Ingebrigtsen, but to go to Kerr, I mean, it was just phenomenal. He came in. He was right there where he needed to be on the last lap, on Ingebrigtsen's shoulder. He got into that good position, and he took advantage of it. Some guys might waste it. He was like, no, I'm there. I was there in Lausanne, and I didn't go with it, and I regretted it. And I was like, I'm not going to take that chance. I'm going for it. I'm not going to give myself any chance to make any regrets. Went for it with 200 meters to go. Was right with him. He didn't get any ground. Ingebrigtsen fought like hell. And then coming off the final turn, Kerr pulls away, gets the victory. I mean, super impressive stuff. But, yeah, we were saying he looked good in the semis, looked good in the prelims, had run a couple good races. But, I didn't know he could get to this level, and he did on the biggest stage.
When you think about it, though, coming in, I think after the bronze, John, Rick, that might have been his one-off chance. But this year you saw it. The 3K at Millrose, the races in Europe. He went to the Diamond League. He raced the best. You're like, wow, he's doing better. He's running faster. And then hearing him talk afterwards, he left like no stone unturned. I guess before we talk about his diet and that sort of stuff, like let's talk about John was talking about, we got a clip for him here about, the last 200 in the race.
I thought he was going to wait for it. I think, obviously he's a very smart runner, and I watched a lot of film, and I thought maybe Yared or someone was going to have a go at him at 200, because I would say it was the inexperienced runner's move by just trying to replicate what happened last year. It's almost an underthink, but for me, I was like, maybe someone will attack him on the outside with 200 to go, try and push him a little bit too hard, and I'll come with 100 to go. But I felt like he was lagging maybe a slight percentage on that backstretch, and I was like, I felt that in Oslo or in Lausanne. I didn't take that opportunity, and I wasn't going to hold anything back today. So.
Yes. That's the crazy thing is he said he watched back last year's World Championship final. He's like, oh yeah, I probably was responsible for half of the views of that thing on YouTube. He studied it. And he's like, I'm not going to do what Whiteman did, because I'm probably, if someone's going to do it, they're going to run out of steam the last 100. Except when he gets in the moment, he was like, he smelled blood and he's like, screw it, I'm going for it. This is the moment. And he proved himself right. But it's just so funny. You can go in with a plan. You can say, this is exactly how I'm going to run it. But you've got to use those racing instincts, and he did.
Yeah, I think he said it wasn't exactly like Whiteman because he didn't beat him to the 200, but he's like, now's my chance, I go.
Yeah.
And actually, John, that's the second clip I had. Here's more from Josh.
How much did you watch last year's final, and like?
I think I'm 50% of those views.
Yeah.
No, I just I have so much respect for Jay Whiteman, and he ran such a phenomenal race last year, and I knew I would have to run it slightly different, and I wouldn't say I ran a very perfect race today, but from what I have been planning for the last couple of months, it was close enough to it where I didn't get emotional until the last 150, and at that point it was just throwing everything I had at it.
If it wasn't perfect, then what was wrong with it?
I haven't watched it back yet, but there was a couple of times in there I was like, damn, that was a mistake, and you can't really make many of those. But I need a bit of luck on my side today, and I was able to get it. Obviously he's a very fast runner, but a lot of pressure on him and a big target on his back. So yeah, I'm just proud of the way I executed today.
Some cool stuff from him. This race, in some ways, guys, obviously it's carbon copy of last year in terms of the tactics, Scott winning. But the other thing that reminds me of last year was, let's go back to Tokyo, the Olympics, John. You and I were there in the empty stadium, but the person that, obviously there, Ingebrigtsen won it, but one of the people that looked, if you were going to pick an upset winner in Tokyo, you and I both would have said, watch it just based on who looks the best in the first round in the semis. Jake Whiteman looked incredible.
Yes.
And then he just laid an egg in the final. And last year, Josh Kerr looked incredible, was talking huge game, and kind of laid an egg in the final. Same thing in Commonwealths or Europeans. And this year, he wins it. So, they showed the brilliance last year, but can't do it in the final. And then this year, they do the final. I only wish that I put the bet down. If I'd actually typed up the betting guide to this meet, and I thought about it, I was going to do it. I mean, I said in the podcast, you should definitely bet him at 50-1. Some people in the chat are saying they made a lot of money off me, but like he ran 330 for his opener. He ran 329 in his second race. I'm like, if he's getting better than that, not many guys are going to be able to in 328 shape. That gives him a real legitimate shot. I looked at the betting odds on Bovado last night though, and it was only like 20-1. I'm like, oh man, because I was already up like $300 from the women's 100. I'm like 20. I went 50-1. So I didn't put it. I did put some money down on Sagai as the fourth favorite at 12-1 and the 5,000. That makes no sense to me. So I could win $1,000 there if she wins. But, this was just a great race, for Josh Kerr. Congrats to him. And I think the real question now is what we always have been wondering since last year. Is Ingebrigtsen just inherently vulnerable in these championship style races because he's not super fast? Like it's the same. It's kind of the opposite of why we view him almost as unbeatable in a championship 5,000. Who's going to run away from him? He's got such good speed and he's going to blast them at the end. But in the 1,500, how is he going to run away from everybody else? And they've got better speed than him. Now, that's one way to think of it because the only 1,500s he's now lost, 3 straight global finals?
If you count World Indoors, yeah.
World Indoors last year, World Outdoors. But it was interesting.
And won everything else.
Everything else. So he comes through the mix zone, though, and credit to him, unlike so many of these Americans, when they have a bad race, they won't stop in the mix zone. Or even if they have a good race, they won't stop at the mix zone. And he wasn't very up, he was disappointed not to win, but he wasn't that upset because he said it was harder to take last year. First of all, he said, I want to give a credit to Josh. He ran a great race. He's the champion. So classy move there. But he said, last year I felt like I didn't win because I made tactical mistakes. He's like, there's nothing I would have changed about today's race. I felt like I competed well. Let's hear from him.
Perfect race. So I think it was exactly how I was hoping it to be, but unfortunately I didn't feel 100%. So I felt that after 500-600 meters that my legs were not feeling as smooth as I would like them to be, but obviously not the best runner today, unfortunately. So a little bit disappointing, but this what it is.
And we've got a couple clips. I've got some audio up on YouTube when there's a part of the mix zone you can't actually film him, but I just took the audio. And there he said, the reason why his legs didn't feel good at 500 or 600 meters is he's like on the morning of the first round, he got a little dryness in his throat. His throat did not feel good. But in the next day, he had a really bad sore throat, did not feel good.
He had a really sore throat when he was showboating during the semifinals. That's what he's saying?
Well, John, that's the question.
John,
you were saying, did this start on the day of the first round or the day of the semifinals? I wasn't in this.
I think he was saying the day of the semifinal because then he had a little bit of pain in his throat, not bad. No, the next day, so he's had 2 days off. So that would have been today's Wednesday. Monday was really bad sore throat. He said it feels much better today. He was hoping that he would be all right. But he said in warm-up he felt okay. You'll never know until the race. He said 600 meters in, he knew he wasn't 100%. Still gets a silver medal. Some people on the message board, he said basically it was very similar to how he felt at World Indoors last year. Now, what are the odds this guy gets sick at 2 of the last 3 global championships?
Well, he had COVID. Like, he tested positive. That he didn't fake that. That happened.
Okay. So I believe him. Some people are doubting it, but that's what's going to make it even better. We're going to be watching this. The reality is, no matter what happens between now and next year, even if he sets a world record, we're going to think this guy's vulnerable at the start line of Paris Olympics.
That's absolutely. Because it's hard to be more dominant than he was this year. He was crushing people over the last 150. And I came in, I was like, it's very hard to win from the front, but this guy's good enough to do it. And
we all went there. But I've been the one that leading the bandwagon. Like, is he vulnerable? People are like, oh, you're crazy all year. But John convinced me. I'm like, okay, he's going to pull it off. But he didn't. And the question is, when we watch the race with our eyes, John's like, that didn't look like the Ingebrigtsen that I've seen this year. But, I was, 4 or 5 guys broke 3:30. We can look at the times. But I said, John, what was the close in this race? And let's compare it to in other races. Ingebrigtsen closed in like 53.7.
Bro, I'm looking at this last 200 here when Kerr really attacked. And looking at that, it's actually pretty similar to what Jako's been doing. Now, some of these splits have been questionable throughout the championships, but I do think these seem, I don't know. These are the ones we're going off in the official race analysis. Jakob closed his last 200 in 26.8. That's pretty in line with the other races he had this year. Now, Rabat, he was fast 26.16 because that was a 3:32 race. But Oslo, the winning time, 3:27.95. He closed in 27.3. In Lausanne, when he beat Kerr the first time, 3:28.72 winning time. He closed in 26.8. And then in Silesia, 3:27.14 winning time, closed in 26.7. So this was pretty much what we've been used to seeing Ingebrigtsen close the last 200. It's just that Kerr was even better. Kerr was 26.5 for his last 200,
and
which is an exceptional close in a 3:29 race. This wasn't Ingebrigtsen laying a complete stinker. He still ran well enough to beat everyone else. Kerr raised his game. Like 26.5 in a 3:29 race, that's a phenomenal close.
And as I said, I looked up we'll have it in the written recap, but I think for the last 400, Ingebrigtsen was like 53.7, which he has not. Every other close has been over 54 seconds in these Diamond League Rapid races. So the last lap was faster. So that means Kerr was like 53.2 or something like that. Niels Oros he might have even been in the 52s.
Well, and also Nordas. Nordas's last 200, according to this, was 26.1, which I believe he was mowing people down. They have him at 7th place with 200 to go. And, this is the same thing we saw from him. Where was it? Oslo, where he ran his big personal best. He had the best last lap there. He was just coming from far back. He said that was exactly his game plan, by the way. He was like, I went out towards the back. I wasn't surprised when I was kicking everyone. He was basically like, I never went lactic in this race. That was what he was claiming. He's like, I never had any lactic acid. And the lactic acid is sort of like, that versus lactate, whatever. But like his obsession, he is fully bought into the church of Yared with this double threshold stuff. The first thing I asked him, how does it feel to be a bronze medalist at the World Championship? And his answer, he said, feeling good, feeling recovered, ready to run some thresholds just outside now in a few minutes. Hopefully I can run a lot and keep on building until the next season. I mean, this guy, it's working for him, but he has been totally brainwashed into double threshold. Yeah. This is the way.
I mean, it's like a cult member, But credit to him.
Wait, we're talking about Nordas?
Yeah.
One other thing here about Nordas. By the way, his former roommate was at the Let's Run meetup. Great turnout. Anyone that showed up, it was amazing. It was so much fun. We had like huge crowd. The beers are so cheap in this town. Anyone who didn't come here is a big mistake. There were so many more people here than we had in Eugene. And it's because like a lot of these Europeans are like, well, it's just so much cheaper. We knew you could get a hotel near the stadium. It was just a lot of fun. But Nordas, his former roommate, I said, I should say all this stuff, but I asked him if he thought the group was clean and stuff like that. I think he did. He said one of the reasons why Nordas may be so much better now than before is like Nordas is a very religious guy, and he was doing like missionary type work. Wasn't maybe all in the running before, and now is giving it 100% commitment. So cool run for him. But the family dynamics between the Ingebrigtsen and his dad, and Nordas is now with the dad. I mean, Nordas, did y'all see that right when he ran? Like, he knew he was almost going to snipe Ingebrigtsen on the finish, and he leaned and he looked over there. I was like, man, that's dirty.
It wasn't dirty. I mean, it was cool. It was a cool storyline to follow. I mean, Norway going 2-3 in the World Championship is pretty great success for Norway. Jakob might not view it that way, but
I didn't see any interaction between them on the track, and I started looking maybe within 5 seconds after the race. But I said to Narv, I'm like, did you say anything to Jakob after the race? And he said, yes. I said, like, congratulations on the silver. I don't think he meant that in the rude way, but he's like, and I'm glad, Jakob, essentially he's like, I'm glad Jakob acknowledged me. So I'm like, it's a frosty relationship. And he's like, yeah, you could say so. But he was like, glad that there was just even that acknowledgement. And these are two guys from the same country. He's now coached by Jakob's dad. And he felt glad that Jakob they just had even that acknowledgement. It's really a sort of, crazy story. And
Speaking of crazy stories, unrelated to this, but I'll forget it if I don't say it now. How about doing, Nordus is probably right now finishing up his 8x1K workout after the World Championship final. We heard today that Sifana Son, after the 1500 meter final, was doing 400 meter repeats on the practice track. I heard like 4 or 5 of them pretty fast, like 64, 65 with very short rest, something like 40 seconds. I mean, it seemed crazy. And we talked to her today after she runs the 5,000 meter prelim, and she runs like 14:35 or something ridiculous. 14:34, John?
14:32. And she leaned at the finish line to beat Faith Kipyegon in a prelim.
Oh, I didn't even realize that was Kipyegon.
Yeah.
Oh, so she like battles out Kipyegon for the win. And she's like, oh, it was important for me mentally to win this thing. And I said, hey, I heard you were doing a workout last night. She's like, well, yeah, like, she said, I'm not really 100% right now because I'm still balancing competing here with training for Chicago. So I've got the marathon in 6 weeks, and I heard someone wants to try to break the world record. So it's going to be a super hard race for me there. So she said she was doing her 400 meter repeats. Like, that was last night, John, was the women's 1500?
Yeah.
Like, that's just wild. I mean, this woman's insane. So she's amazing. It's just a cool story.
Yeah. I mean, can we just say this is why the 1500 kicks every other event's ass? I mean, it's the best event in track and field. I say, the 800 is more exciting. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't break down the 800 in the same sort of detail as the 1500. It's unpredictable. Like the championship races, hey, you can dominate the whole season long, but if you don't get it right on the night.
And the drama builds. There's enough time for the drama to build, to talk. It's not a total crapshoot.
But I guess, all right, I'm going to throw it out there. It's time to have this decision. Sorry, have time to have this discussion. Is trying to front run a championship final should Jakob abandon this strategy? Second time in a row, we've seen, there's always going to be someone. Next year, it might be Neil Gourley next year. It might be someone totally, it might be Nuguse. There's always going to be someone who maybe isn't quite as fit as you, but is pretty damn fit and is going to be able to close, and they can sit on you while you're leading the whole thing, and they might be able to kick past you. There's always usually going to be someone in a world championship final that is that good and that in shape and ready to roll like that.
That's true. But I would like to see in the World Athletics, the timing has been terrible with this meet in terms of getting the times, the splits has been terrible. Sorry, Seiko. When you do a terrible job, I can't say anything else. But they were publishing briefly last year, like how far everybody ran in this race. Like Kerr talked about a few mistakes he made. He had to run pretty wide. He was out in lane 2 for a while. Ingebrigtsen was on the outside of the lane for the first lap. I would like to see how much distance they ran. I mean, Kerr won despite not having when you're in the lead, you are running generally the shortest distance. So I don't think he's fast enough to try to blast these guys from behind. So it's just, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If I was him, I would try to get my damn brother healthy again, get him in the final, and just go all out, El Garouche, just let him.
That's weak. That's so weak.
It's not weak.
No, it is absolutely
Jim
weak.
Ryan's still bitching about it 60 years later. If they get in there, they can do whatever the hell they want.
No, I mean, he's complaining about it because it's weak to have a teammate set the pace for you in the Olympic final. I'm sorry, this is an individual race. It's not a team sport. The one thing I would say, I mean, Jakob said he felt he ran a perfect race, but to me, I'm looking at this. I mean, there's only one guy in the world this year that's run 3:27. If I were him, I don't know. Do you push that second 400? He actually slowed it down. Kipsang took the lead, ran through 456. Jakob takes over at 500 meters. He ran the next lap in 58. So they actually slowed it by 2 seconds. Then he starts his long drive for home from 800. Do you think it was a mistake to slow down a little bit on that second lap, or are you okay with him pushing with 700 out?
This is why it's fascinating. We can debate this damn thing for a full another year because
sure we will.
I'm like, oh, he should wait and maybe push harder. Then I'm like, wait, we said all along, how does he lose this race? And we're like, he kind of pushes and it's a 3:29 race and somebody out kicks him. I mean, I almost think you either back it down more or just go harder and try to go 3:27. But I think if you try to go 3:27, a lot of guys can misjudge that. Doing that without a rabbit, I think is harder. He does 3:27, sure, but he's got a rabbit for part of it and pacing lights. Fine. Maybe he goes to some diamond leagues and he's just like, I don't want a rabbit or whatever. See what he do. I mean, you have to he kind of laughed at Robert's question.
Was it Monica where I asked him that? No, Monica.
It was a virtual question we asked. And it's like, hey, have you ever thought about not having a rabbit in some of these things? And I think it's like the perfect El Garouche situation.
Somebody who listened to the clip today, I did ask him. I forgot what it said. In the audio, there's two Ingebrigtsen clips on YouTube. One is the audio only. I asked him, hey, why did you run in the middle of the pack in the semi? Was it because you weren't feeling well? I forgot what he said, but I was wondering maybe he just wanted to practice the kick thing there. But Harvey Henry has a great comment on YouTube. Josh Kerr should carry 2.0, and Jakob tonight should carry 1.0. Kerr cuts out all of his trash talk. Remember, Kerr was talking a big game last year, showboating, and wins the title like Richardson did. Jakob gets worse with showboating in the semi and trash talking and doesn't win. Because Kerr said after the semi, he's like, hey, last year that was me, and everyone gave me shit for it. Now Ingebrigtsen does it, and it is interesting. Why would he be showboating if he wasn't feeling well?
We'll have to go to the
wait.
Bruder film.
Now, wait, there is one important thing we need to say about this final. If you are triggered by weight or nutrition,
No, we're about to go there.
Oh,
So-
I think it's an important point.
Of course. But
Josh Kerr brought it up. But
first, I want to tie this into Robert's theory of running. What's Robert's big theory about dating and running and whatnot?
or if you're in a stable relationship, the man does better. Or sorry, no, the man does better when he's on the hunt. It's the woman does better in a stable relationship.
And Josh Kerr, but I think we might have to put a caveat on this. Well, we're going there right now.
Josh Kerr's engaged. I don't know what
he's
does it have to do
engaged.
with
He's in
anything.
a stable relationship. Yet
No.
he's the Olympic champion,
World champion.
the world champion. Excuse me.
Engagement
But
is
we got a text. We said this on the podcast a few nights ago. This is why you need to be a Supporters Club member. Join letsrun.com/subscribe today. Use code CLUB25 to save 25%. You can save 20% on running shoes right away. This thing pays for itself. But anyway, we got a text from Running with the Buffaloes author Chris Lear. This is on Sunday night after the first round, I guess, or second round.
Second round.
And this guy should know. He's the one who wrote the Mark Wetmore, comments about being skinny and looking like a condom.
He's calling right now.
Lear's fourth comment, just out of the blue. Josh Kerr finally looks skinny. Pegging him for a medal, I'm at alone. Then we're talking to Josh afterwards today, and he's like, look, my team deserves total credit for this thing. We left no stone unturned. The training's always been good, but it was another level this year. I've always had the mental coach, but the one thing that's really different this year is the diet.
Yeah.
I have a-
hired a nutritionist. He has a chef. And he said the last 6 weeks of meals, the nutritionist has plotted out every single thing that's gone in his mouth over that time. And I was talking to Josh about this, and I said, so did this affect, your weight? Do you think this had anything? He's like, yeah, man, I'm 155 this year, and I was 165 last year. Like, it was a significant amount of weight. So Chris was right. He dropped some weight, and he felt that diet. He said, I like Chipotle a lot. My fiance kind of noticed my diet wasn't that great. She's like, shouldn't you be doing this if you're doing everything to be the best in the world? Don't you want to have a good diet too? And he thinks that's one of the little percentage points that helped him become the world champion.
Right. So Roberts actually took the call from Chris Lear in the other room. But I'm putting a caveat on Roberts' theory of dating for men. If the man gets in a stable relationship and the woman then does something directly related to the running, she said, Josh, you're so serious. Why don't you change your diet? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. Well, he's now a gold medalist, and I guess Silesia he lost to Jakob, but he's looked really good. He was competitive in that race. I could see him maybe taking it to Jakob after Worlds as well.
It's so interesting, though, because this is another thing I'm sure will be dissected at length over the next year. Jakob shows up. He races a ton. He never loses. He was undefeated in 2023 going into this year. None of them were particularly close. The closest call he had was Euro Windows and Neil Gourley. And even then, I don't think he was going to lose that race. Here are Josh Kerr's results this summer. June 15th, 9th place in the Bislett Games in Oslo.
But
How
fast?
3:30.07, not a slow time. June 30th, 3rd place in Lausanne, 3:29.64. Again, not a slow time. Then he goes to the British Championships, 5th place in the 800 meters, 1:46.35. This is reminiscent of Jake Whiteman before last year. Remember, he goes to Oslo. He got crushed in the mile in Oslo last year by Jakob Ingebrigtsen. But they don't give you gold medals based on how you are in the Oslo Diamond League. They give you gold medals how you run on the night of the World Championship final. And Josh has done this before. He has medaled before. He knows how to run well. Look, Jakob's still medaling every time, but this was not Jakob's best race of the season. This absolutely was Josh Kerr's best race of the season. And he's just like, yeah, look, I design everything around this one race. I don't really care about the other ones that often. He doesn't race quite as much on the circuit as some other guys, but everything's geared around this one, and he got it absolutely 100% right. He ran the best race of his life when it mattered the most.
Yeah, it's interesting how some people don't like the showboating that Jakob was doing, and Josh was talking a big game this year, went quiet this year. But John, the 3:30, it's crazy. That was 9th in Oslo. But to me, when I saw that, I'm like, it's a very fast opener for him. And he went. The thing I thought he did differently this year was like, it was big races he was doing, and then the Wasan race, he was in contention in that one, if I remember. I mean, fairly to go from 9th to 3rd to kind of challenging Jakob. I'm like, this guy could be a factor. And then he worked on his strength indoors this year with that 3K at Melrose, which shocked everybody. He won that thing, right?
He did. Yeah, no, people were like getting on him like, you know, why didn't you run the mile against some of the big dogs? Nuguse was in there, Ollie Ho was in there, and he's like, no, I wanted to do this 3K. I need to improve my strength. He ran 7:33. That was, a really great run for him. He beat some terrific men in that race and set him up well. He said this winter, that was another thing. The winter after getting the bronze at the Olympics, he's like, look, I kind of had the Olympic hangover. You get that big goal, you achieve a lifelong goal, and then you're just not as motivated. It's a long off season, whatever. And 2022, it's not like he had an awful year, but 5th in the World Championship final. This time, he's like, my winter was excellent, and he was able to carry that on all the way to tonight.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it just hit me a few weeks ago that this is the guy that if someone's going to beat Ingebrigtsen, I said it was going to be Kerr. Someone play the damn clip and give me some respect, because I totally discounted Josh on that Melrose 3K. I was like, why is he even running? This guy's got terrible endurance. And then he fucking impressed me. Excuse the language. I had to leave the live show to talk to my buddy Chris Lear. He was pumped to hear that Kerr had actually hired a chef. Kick ass. But now, all right, 2024. People are saying, is Ingebrigtsen even going to be the Norwegian champion? I'll tell you this much. If I'm setting betting odds for the Olympics, who's your favorite?
Well, it has to be Ingebrigtsen. Come on, man.
What, Niels Warholm? You're going to go with someone younger, or are you going to go Josh Kerr? Who are you going? You're telling me you're going to pick Nordas? No way.
No, of course not. I'm picking Ingebrigtsen as the favorite.
No.
And then my number 2 choice would probably be Kerr. My number 3 choice would be interesting. The bookies are probably going to, there's a lot of betting in Britain, probably put Whiteman. And then I'm putting Laurel's 4th. I mean, I guess Nuguse.
Nuguse has been good. I guess the thing is, though, next year, I don't want to predict what we're going to think next year, but like this, going into this race, if you said you get Jakob or you get the field, I would have taken Jakob. And I think moving forward to next year, you ask that same question, I think most people would say the field based on how the last 2 years have gone.
But it's going to be, it's the perfect redemption. The good thing for Jakob is,
do you think there's any?
He's got the Olympic gold already.
If he wins 2, he's right with he's with Co, and then he only wants to do 2. So if he wins Olympic gold, it's not like he's going to forget these. But that's the ultimate trump card. He's like, I showed up on the even bigger stage and got it done. So he wins Paris, everything's going to be copacetic. But oh man, can you imagine if he loses again next year? I mean, if he gets silver 3 years in a row, like
legendary runner.
We'll match a Gurma of the men's 1500.
Except he won the Olympics at age 20. So
it's just crazy all these like subplots going on with the Nordas thing, and like, he got the bronze medal. Like that's so crazy. Like, I still can't get that. And then the other thing with Josh Kerr is what his coach Danny Mackey's been going through. There's been some allusions to this on Instagram. Like Danny had posted on, this is 6 weeks ago, on March 3rd, my life turned into a nightmare. Since then, it's been worse. I've heard people talking about meeting the devil and what that can do to your heart, soul, brain, and mind. I fully know what that means now. And he goes on from there. And people were at the time were like, what is this? It was really dark. And I guess, John, do you want to take it over here? Because John reached out to Danny today after the meet.
Yeah, I reached out to Danny and offered my congratulations. And then, he offered that what happened was
he's not here.
He's not in Budapest because in March, his fiance shot and killed herself at their house. They had a 5-month-old daughter who he's had to now raise himself, and it's shaken him, as it understandably would anyone. There's been a custody battle with his fiance's parents, and there's a court case and that sort of thing, and it's been very tough on Danny. And he took a very brief break, only about 6 days from coaching. And there's like, well, I've got these athletes, they're relying on me, and he's been coaching with that looming over him the whole year. So for him to do that, I mean, it's I can't even imagine what he's going through right now. It's such a tough situation for him and his daughter. But after the race on Instagram, he showed some very nice pictures of Josh Kerr playing with his daughter at their training camp, and it was just a very nice moment. So I'm sure that's something that he's going to have a very fond memory from this night and what has been a pretty shitty year otherwise for him.
Yeah, I mean, running is a joke when something like this happens. So Danny, we're thinking of you. Running is so insignificant with this. And here's what Danny said on Instagram today: "I'm so proud of you, Josh Kerr. I'm so happy for your family. Not a better group of people I've met who appreciate and be humbled by their son's title better than them. Brooks Running and Brooks Beast Track Club, enjoy this. Moments like this don't come along much, if ever. You deserve credit. Your prints are all over the best shoes in the world and that gold medal. For me, I got into the sport to see if a person on the right team with grit, intelligence, scary discipline, and full of joy could be the best in the world without cutting corners. No gray areas, all above the board. You gave me that answer. Josh, you showed everyone and my daughter, Isla, that it can be done. Josh, thank you for choosing the hard path. I love and respect you, man." I mean, that doesn't get your goosebumps going. I don't know what does, but thoughts, prayers to Danny. I mean, Brooks, this is a huge thing for Brooks. The Brooks Beast. I mean, I feel like recently, On Athletics Club has really made a lot of splash. They've brought in a lot of top NCAA talent. This is huge. I mean, the Brooks has what? 2 athletes at this meet? The Beast?
Nia Akins and Josh Kerr. Yeah.
Is Harris no longer?
Oh, Mada Penfreitas is still part of Brooks Beast. She was at Worlds.
Isaiah
Harris.
Never mind.
So, yeah, they actually got a decent little crew. And they've got an Olympic medal, and they've got a world champion.
And Nia Akins, man,
Oh,
look out! There probably aren't even betting odds on her,
Well,
but she's the dark horse.
shoe execs. Well, first of all, 2 things here. Shoe execs. You probably don't have to hire me to be your consultant, because all you need to do is, if you want to have a good team, you sign the NCAA champions. Don't sign the NCAA 6th placer, the 7th placer, the All-American. Sign the talent. When you sign top talent, Kerr he won NCAAs when he was super young, and then he had the sort of an off year and went pro. So Brooks got him. Normally Nike, Adidas would have signed this guy. And then number 2, it shows that there's so many good coaches out there. If they have the talent.
Wait a second. You're saying
They
Kerr had an off year?
Yes.
What do you? I mean, his final year in college, he won 3 NCAA titles. His final year in college, he won NCAA indoors and then got beat at NCAA outdoors.
Yeah, the luster fell off of him when
I
he
guess
lost
so.
the
I
NCAA
don't
outdoor.
know. He'd already won 3 titles. But
So it wasn't as big of a deal. It wasn't people were like, why? No one was saying, "Oh my gosh, he went to Brooks." So there's a lot of good, coaches out there that can get the job done when they get the right talent. So, anyways, I wonder if I can start coaching Jakob now. Jakob, I'm there for you if you need me. I've been predicting these races pretty damn good. You said you like John's takes, but sometimes when you're young, you don't want to hear the hard truth. I'm not sure what I would cut. If I was coaching him, what would I tell him to do? I would say we're going to practice in the Diamond League, 1 meet, just no rapids. See if we get the job done there. If we don't, it'd be kind of scary though, actually, I guess, if we don't win it. But just practice a little bit. But it'd be interesting to see what happens the rest of the season. Can Ingebrigtsen get rid of this illness and dominate if he wins the 5,000?
And he could easily win the 5,000. This happened last year. He lost the 1,500. It was a big upset, and then he destroyed everyone in the 5,000. So I think he's still the favorite for the 5,000. I know. I'm assuming he'll be feeling a little bit better when that finals run on Sunday.
And the whole illness thing, I was sort of suspect of it, but wait, he never claimed an illness last year. He's like, I ran stupid, essentially, is what he said.
Well,
right?
he said indoors, he had COVID. Outdoors, he said, I responded to Chariot's race. I wasn't I was the best athlete and I lost, but he wasn't saying like I was less than 100%. He's saying I responded to Chariot.
Because initially I was like, well, if he pulls another illness excuse, I'm not going to buy it. And then I was like, well, also, I think you can get nervous. You can make yourself sick before big championships. But I'm going to give him a break on that front because COVID, you just get, I mean, it was so crazy. You just got it or you didn't. And then this is a separate one. This is the first time I feel like he's been legit sick with this sort of like some random illness maybe you get from stress or something like that. Or who knows, maybe the travel, who knows? Like you can all get a cold at the wrong time. But also sometimes the one thing, a lot of runners have run really well with colds or whatnot. Like, I mean, I wasn't the Olympic level, but like one of my best races in college, I was like really sick. So it's sort of crazy how that works.
I never ran well when I was sick, for the record. Just I'm saying that. And also,
no, usually I use it as an excuse. But
by the
one time
way,
I did.
Weldon's old roommate, Tanya Baker from Princeton, UK Brit athlete. She ran her PB on Sudafed in college. It was banned at the time. Shame on you, Tanya. But one other thing about this race, can we talk about this nonsense about how if Gert Ingebrigtsen isn't credentialed, it's going to hurt Norv Nordas? He did just fine without his coach being credentialed. Josh Kerr did pretty well with his coach being thousands of miles away. So, but by the way, if you are an elite coach and you need boots on the ground, I will be happy to wear an earpiece. There'll probably be a slight delay in your TV, but I know at this point, I know enough about running to like, you can be yelling at me and like, tell him to move up, tell him to move back. And then I will wing it the last time they come by me with like 400 to go. I'll kind of anticipate what you would have told me and yell it on the last lap. Now, when Weldon was like in the lead pack at USA's in 2003, I was on the phone with our coach, John Kellogg, and I'm like, what should I tell him? I think it's a lie. I think this is actually Mount Sac. I'm like,
it's Montreal, I think.
I'm like, what should I tell him? He's like, tell him to stay in the lead pack. I'm like, okay, stay in the lead pack. You're doing good. You're running the race of your goddamn life. I mean,
it was really good coaching about the final lap. He's like, you should try to win.
Oh, I also I have to take the L. Before the World Championships, I asked you guys, are we going to get double gold for Jakob, double gold for Faith Kipyegon? And I was like, the odds, playing the percentages, the smart call is no. I know my brain says no, my heart said yes. Well, we've only had 2 finals so far, and it's already, shattered to its pieces. So you got to follow the odds on that one, people.
It's good. John admits to having a heart, but Rose Runner's got a good comment here. We're 47 minutes in. We had 2 Americans in this final.
We talked about it.
We barely talked about them. John, Weldon, and Robert, what grades would you give Yared and Hocker for their performances today?
Yared, start with Yared. I'm giving him a B-.
No, that's not that far off, but I'm saying C+. This was not good.
Yeah, he'd been second or third every race this year. This was a fast race. He was in pretty good position, and he gave it up. He's run 3:29. He's run what it takes to medal. I'm not saying he should have won, but we all thought he was more than capable of medaling. He's beaten pretty much all these guys this year, apart from Jakob. To get 5th place, he might be having fun and happy with it, and that's great. But based on what he's done this year, it is a little bit of an underperformance. So yeah, B-. I think C+ is also a fair grade.
I guess 5th in the world, though. Yeah, 3:30.25.
But this is the expectation. This is how good he is.
Robert coming in, I would have said
3:29.02.
Yeah.
I mean, coming in, I would have said, what's a bad performance for him? And I would have been like, he better be in the medal stand or 5th place. I'm like, that's not very good.
I want to thank him though, because he saved us some money. We got a lot of people sign up thinking he was a lock for the medal. They were expecting the freebies. A couple people in the comments are saying,
no, you said he only if he wins.
He had to win.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot. A lot of people are saying you need to give us the free supporters club membership because Josh Kerr is based in America and he medaled. I don't think unless they can, Lagat did win a medal for Wild American Citizen representing Kenya. Unless they play the national anthem for America tomorrow, we're not going to be granting your supporters club membership. But one thing about Nuguse, and I backtracked this, but I said that Mario Garcia Romo and Ollie Hoare should leave the OAC and come to the Baltimore Track Club, coached by me and John Kellogg, because he's never going to beat Yared Nuguse again. It was close today, 0.01. And the Nordas Ingebrigtsen, like Nordas, it was, again, it's like the college team. You want to beat your teammate or your rival, kind of. Nordas was like looking at Ingebrigtsen. Not only was it a better medal, but he just wanted to beat this guy. Mario Garcia Romo wanted to beat Nuguse, and Nuguse knew he was coming and leaned at the damn line. So I always say run the whole way, but that was an inter-team rivalry, 100th of a second off of each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I really would have, like, if Garcia Romo beat Nuguse, I'd have really even knocked him even further. Like, that's sort of shocking to me.
Well, I mean, he was 4th in the world last
It's just
year.
hard. There's a lot of guys that think they should medal. Abel Kipsang, remember this guy? He ran an Olympic record in the semifinals of Tokyo at a very young of age. Ended up 4th there. He's 4th again. There's a lot of people that are like, damn, I want a medal.
Niels Loros might have been 3rd coming off the final turn.
He was 4th.
He was
4th?
right there.
He gets 10th. I mean, there's no room for error anymore. That's what's so good about the men's 1500 right now. These guys are really good. There's a lot of depth, and it's just fabulous. Cole Hocker, I give him a higher grade than Yared, probably like B. I mean, all in all, a season from where he was to get here and make the final in 7th, I give him like even more. I mean, it depends on when you start grading. If I go back far enough and give Yared a grade for the season, I give him an A+. I mean, he's the number 2 miler in the world. You tell me he's going to essentially be probably like at the equivalent of the number 2 miler in the world and finish 5th at Worlds. That's an A+ for him. Cole, from being hurt and whatnot, I thought his race today was fine. It's a PB. You can't really ask for much more than that. I give him at least a B.
People want to know the beef between Nordas and Jakob. I think it's more between Jakob and his father, and their relationship is strained. Since I'm in the European Union, I don't want to tell people what I heard today because it probably could be super defamation. But then Jakob probably has no relationship with his father right now, is what I would guess. And then his father's now coaching somebody who's one of his rivals. Like, I was thinking about this. Who do you? And there was an interesting message board thread about Jakob's father. People, I've watched the TV series. He loved his sons. He pushed them. He was demanding, but he loved them and he gave them everything they have now. But that doesn't mean the kid has to like your bad behavior now. You can love your sons. But I thought about this. I'm the cabinet. I asked you guys because I didn't see the right answer. You're Gert Ingebrigtsen. You're watching this race. What are you rooting for? What are you hoping happens? That's my question. John, I have a simple answer, but I'm a father. You're not.
I don't know how Gert feels about Jakob, so I can't pretend to know this.
That's the whole point, John. You got to speculate. That's the point of giving hot takes.
The whole point of the speculation here. Put it in the chat what you think. To me, the proper response is you hope Jakob wins it and Nordas gets second.
It's your job, though. You're coaching this person. It's like you're a doctor. You're supposed to treat your patient. You want your person to do well.
So you want your guy to beat your own son?
Well, I would say this.
And your
In
son's
an
using that training anyway.
in an NFL team sport, if you're a head coach and your son's on the other team, you would want your team to beat your son's team.
Well, that's
There's
different
no doubt
because
about
your
that.
son can still be phenomenal and your team still beats them.
Right.
This one, if your son is phenomenal, he beats your athlete. For whatever reason, I think Gert wanted his athlete to beat his son. So
Matthew Dollar up in the comments says he was rooting for Yared. I mean, also don't know if he's just totally making that up. Probably is. I doubt that out of those two, he was rooting for the American and not the Norwegian. But it's a funny comment, made me laugh.
Okay, was there anything else tonight, guys?
what do you
yeah,
mean?
go
Was
ahead.
there anything else?
Let's talk briefly about the other action. Warholm wins the 400 hurdles. I'm not sure. I'm used to 45s. What was the winning time tonight, John? It was kind of slow.
I mean, you're used to 45s. There's been one in history. But yeah, the winning time was 46.88. It was not exactly the race we were expecting. Well, it was through about 250, 300. No, so maybe 300. I thought that Benjamin and Warholm were very close to each other. McMaster also went out very hard. I was like, what is it like? I assume this is just going to be a two-person race. Maybe Dos Santos is involved. Instead, McMaster's very close to Warholm and Benjamin. So props to that guy. He went out for it. But essentially, Benjamin could not hang with Warholm over the last 100. And I was actually thinking at the very start, Benjamin's could win this thing and run incredibly fast because he's known for coming from behind. The fact that he was with Warholm through about halfway, I'm like, Rai
Right.
could actually improve and go even faster. It's not what happened. Warholm, in the end, he's the champ. When he's healthy, he doesn't lose. The one defeat he's had over the last 4 years, it was last year's World Championship final when he was not healthy and he lost to Dos Santos and a bunch of other guys. When he's on, he's pretty much unbeatable.
Again, let's wait till they're all healthy. Because the thing that didn't make sense about this race to me was Benjamin ran amazing at USA's, but he said he barely trained. I'm like, why would you be better than ever if you're barely training? So I think sometimes you can kind of fake it, and then months later, you kind of, in distance running, you would lose your fitness. I want to see the three of these guys healthy next year and see what happens, because it would be really special. So
Rai said, yeah, like he's like, I've been hurt. It's a really tough year. I have a problem staying healthy. And then he used to train a lot with Michael Norman, right?
Yeah.
And Michael Norman's moved on. He didn't really address. No one asked him about that directly, but he's like, I need to stay healthy. It was hard, getting to USA's. He did really well there on limited preparation, and I think he thought he'd be better tonight. He's like, I can't really explain it, but I've missed time. He's like, when I'm healthy, I'm really good. People want to know about the prediction contest sponsored by Sunto. We got amazing Sunto watches to our winners, the top 3. Thank you, Sunto. About my picks for the 400-meter hurdles. I guess someone can see my picks. Guys, this is like cleaning the sewers and stuff. Like we create the contest, we have to make sure they work. So a lot of times I just put in fake picks just to make sure stuff's working, and I forgot to change them. So I have like 3 randos in the 400-meter hurdles. So at the end of the contest, we will bump my score by like 5 or 6
This
points.
is a World Championships tradition.
No,
Long-time listeners to the podcast will realize Weldon always makes some mistake and then has some excuse. Oh, I forgot to make this pick.
And he was
Or,
in
oh,
ninth
I didn't
place.
do this.
I
I'll
was in
bump my
ninth place.
score up at the end.
Overall?
yes.
Yeah.
What?
This happens every time. He makes some schoolboy error and then says, oh, if it wasn't for this, I'd be doing really, really well.
But he did make a mistake, because your 10,000 picks, people were commenting on the comments. Someone looked them up. They were terrible. Like, it didn't make any sense. Or the 5,000 picks. You picked
See, we'll rescore this and I'll win. I want to give other people a chance.
There's no
I mean,
we'll score it
this-
according to the picks everyone made.
This has been everyone has seen. I've not been on the podcast too much because I've been remote until today, but this has been the coming out party, this World Championships for me. I said that Timothy Chariot was washed. He didn't even make the final. I said back in January, your world champion in the 100 meters would be Sha'Carri Richardson. Just, if you want stock picks, hey, this is it. Supporters Club Plus members. Your stock picks will be coming out soon.
okay,
But
women's 400 hurdles. Women's 400 final. The woman behind us here, who I didn't even know she was coming to this meet.
she got the silver?
Natalie Kazmarek gets the silver from Poland. Paulino, though, fast. 48.76. That's not easy. I mean, that's sort of Miller-Weibo territory, right, John? That's what Sydney could kind of run with Sydney's PB.
Sydney ran 48.74. Man, would have been nice to have them running against each other in this final. Wouldn't that have been fun?
Yeah. Seda Williams gets third, 49.60. Rasidat Adeleke of Ireland / University of Texas is fourth. Interesting story here. We've been talking to people about this. She's a huge star in Ireland. This is kind of a cool story. Like, born and raised in Ireland, obviously a black woman. There's not, there weren't very many black people living in Ireland. And now the country, the world is becoming a cool, accepting place, and they're very proud of her. They said she was like on the front page of the newspaper there. Apparently she got paid to go pro, like big cash. I mean, we're hearing, can I say, between
Mid 6 figures.
That's so she doesn't medal, but they said, we were talking to an Irish journalist. Like, oh, maybe it's good she didn't medal because she's like our best hope for like a track medal next year. So, or McGeehan. So she medaled this year. There's been all talk about her, because think about who wasn't in this race. No Sydney, who's probably going to double next year if I'm betting on it. No Shani Miller-Weibo. No Thing Mo.
No NASA. NASA was looking like a threat to win the whole thing until she got hurt. Remember, she ran 49 earlier this year, and I would have thought the way she's training in the past. So, yeah, this field should be stronger next year. Pretty devastating for Ireland. They haven't won a medal on the track at the World Championships since 1995. They got fourth 2 nights in a row. This one was not quite as close as McGeehan.
But one of their four medals of the first Olympics, but they only handed out 2 medals, but 4 was considered like medalist.
I think that did happen. I'm not really sure why that's relevant here, but yeah.
Oh, Thomas Lester wants me to hire a sprint expert. I'm going to start my sprint website before I die, and my children's book's going to be published. 958.com. Knock on wood.
All right, guys. We also had in terms of distance races, I thought there was 2 developments.
Wait, this is 1 hour into the show. We have not mentioned a Thing Mo race today, people. This is the win for the sport. A Thing Mo is in Budapest. She won her heat of the 800 wearing bedazzled Nike spikes.
Well, we knew she was in Budapest, but of course, when you're part of the Bobby Kirsley Track Club, it doesn't mean anything because Sydney's gone to Monaco. Sat in the stands, doesn't actually race. So we kind of thought she was going to race because she was here, but she actually did today. So John let me sleep in because I'm about to leave for the airport. So John's like, Robert, you sleep in, you're going to die if you have to go to the morning session. John, how does she look? Tell us what happened.
She looked good. She went out pretty quick. I think it was like 27 through 400. Led pretty much the whole way. I was like, all right, she's going to cruise this thing in. And then the last 100, she kind of started, she wasn't really being challenged and she relaxed a little bit. And then Natoya Gould sees that and starts coming up on her. And then the runners who she had gapped, they're kicking because they need this auto qualifier. So they start closing the gap on her. And then Mo's like, oh, okay, I might need to accelerate a little bit more. So she did that and held off Gould to win the heat. I thought she looked fine. It was pretty simple for her.
Interesting. You can just overanalyze something too much. I was just off the plane watching it and going over to the track to get my credential. Didn't go to the stadium this morning. She got out so fast. She was so far ahead of everyone. I'm like, oh my God, look like she's jogging 27 point. Then she's like, what, 58 or something? Maybe.
Yeah.
And then Gould kept getting closer down the home stretch. And I'm like, oh my God, she's rigging up. They're getting close to her.
She was not rigging up.
And then it's a bit much. She kind of like leaned and they battle for the win. I feel like, if we're going to talk about difference in sexes, I feel like the women are way more likely to battle it out for the win in heats. Someone document this. Some social scientists, please, let's crunch the data. Who's more likely to battle it out in a heat for a win? The men or the women? I don't know, John. The first 200 of this race, I'm like, oh, wow, she's so effortless. And then I'm like, is she going to be tired at the end of these things? Like, is she going to be able to run 155?
It's prelim. I saw nothing to worry me. And
that's why we have the 2 next rounds, right? Like there's this.
How good is
even if she looked great today, there's still gonna be question marks on the final because Keeley opened up at 155.
Here's my question. But the Keeley 155 is a little bit confusing to me because all indoors was hearing how great her workouts were, but the races weren't great. And then she runs 155 when she wasn't expecting it. How did Keeley look?
She looked great.
Compared
Very easy. I mean, look.
And how amazing did Thing Mo look? I mean, excuse me, did Nia Akins look? Did Nia Akins look the best?
Yes.
I mean, she ran the fastest.
Like, what are her betting odds? 100 to 1? 200 to 1?
Nia Akins is not winning this race. Come on, man. She's not beating the big 3. Or she might not even beat Gemma Ricci.
She beat Gemma Ricci today, I'm pretty sure.
I don't care. It's a prelim. Like,
Moo and Hutch go all out, tie up, fall over, and then Nia Akins wins, and I'm rich and I can retire. That would be amazing.
I don't know. I mean, okay, yeah. For every 100 to 1, or
she beat Gemma Ricci by 0.52.
You guys, these are 800 prelims. Like all the big names, really. I mean, all the major stars made it through. Not the Americans. Kayla Edwards did not run well. She got lost in her heat and isn't going through. But
by the way,
I think you guys are way over analyzing 800 prelims. Hodgkinson looked absolutely fine. She shut it down at the end. She said she thinks she might be even in better shape than the last 2 years. She's run great in the last 2 global finals, so I feel quite confident about her fitness right now. The question is a Thing Mo even better?
By the way, folks, Jonathan Gault, the hardest working man in journalism. It used to be Weldon. He did the homepage for like 12 years straight. Jonathan Gault got up at 9 a.m., goes out there to interview the women's 800 preliminary runners. Guess how many of the 4 Americans decided to even stop to talk to John? Well, 2 would have done it, but he could only talk to 1.
No, only one of them stopped. And I didn't get to talk to her because I was talking to Keeley.
Oh, so you got 0.
Raven Rogers did stop to talk to the media. Athingmo did not. Kayla Edwards did not. And Nia Akins did not. I'm not going to freak out about people not talking after a prelim. It would be nice. I don't think it necessarily is like, oh, this is a huge travesty, but I will juxtapose it to Noah Lyles, the world champion in the 100 meters, who ran the prelim of the 200, stopped pretty much everywhere and talked to everyone. He gave the print journalist, or us, the press internet people, 6 minutes of a wonderful interview, very thoughtful responses to every question. And I do wonder if Noah Lyles can do this. Now, he enjoys sort of maybe he doesn't enjoy the media part. He likes getting some attention, but he also understands, like, he wants to be popular. He wants to grow the sport. That's just something you kind of do as a professional. I'd love if more people had his outlook. I know not everyone likes the spotlight as much as he does, but I do want to commend him for, talking to us for 6 minutes when he had no reason to.
Did people try to talk to Nia Akins? She's the only one who didn't make the next round, right?
No, Kayla Edwards and Kayla Edwards did not involve.
Kayla Edwards.
I talked to the USATF, to Natalie Ole, and she just said she's not talking.
I'm doing pretty good on no sleep. That was my first mistake, and it's 2 a.m. here.
Speaking of which, by the way, the Peacock people who are doing the feature on Noah Lyles, they may be featuring a part of this podcast on their second episode of the Noah Lyles show, because who else is breaking down track and field? But we said in our Supporters Club only podcast, who has the most to gain, who has the most to lose. And what we've heard is they may be using like the clip while he's warming up, because we said it was Noah Lyles. Like, what I said was he's been anointed as the champion. If he imagine he loses the 100, doesn't even medal, and then loses the 200, he's going to be an afterthought to whoever beats him in the 200. But if he wins both, this guy's viewed as the next bolt. We're halfway to the next bolt right now.
Wait, I thought the Noah Lyles series was done. It's a full documentary. Isn't done? There's more to come.
No, that was part 1. Part 2 is coming. It's dropping the day before the pre-classic, and it's going to include, world championships.
Wait, so I'm only one show that's like an hour long that I had to watch so far?
Yes.
Oh, I thought there was like 5 or 6 of them. That's why I didn't invest the time.
By the way, we had a documentary filmmaker at the Supporters. It was an amazing Supporters Club Let's Run hangout today. I mean, we had Laros' roommate. Laros' roommate, Laros' parents. We had a documentary filmmaker. Should we give his name out, or is that legal?
Paul Kemp.
We also had
created the Salazar documentary.
Nike's Big Bet.
Yeah.
Nike's Big Bet. We had a number of beautiful women. I mean, I love my wife, but there was beautiful women. We took the photo shots for the 2024 Let's Run.
What was that number? 2?
Hey, they were both beautiful. The Let's Run 2024 calendar. We have the cover shot taken.
Okay.
All the guys held her up like on like that, and
all right, Robert. I don't really. It is 2:12 a.m. in Budapest. We need to get final thoughts here on some of these.
One more thing.
We still have to finish up this.
There was also the women's 5K. Did anything of substance happen there?
No. I want to know about the 200s. Who looked the best? Knighton, Lyles, Tebogo.
It was too easy for them. No, or the first round. It's not.
You can't
read
into
challenged.
These prelims. It's just so easy. Now I will say. I mean, Zonal Hughes had the fastest time. He's the only guy sub 20, but Noah Lyles looked pretty easy as well, as you would expect. The one thing I thought was interesting, Courtney Lindsay, the other American on the team, is Lyles, Benerick, Knighton, and him. He was looking fantastic. And then he was like putting on the brakes right before the finish line, like, easing up, except he's never been to Worlds before. So he eased up like way too much, and he didn't win this heat. He still got the second auto spot, but he almost got down to like 4th. Like, they tossed him right off the line, and we were just like, oh my word, he slowed down a lot. So I think he will have learned his lesson there, but that was interesting. All right. We did have some distance prelims tonight. Not a great session for the Americans, I would say. Natasha Rogers eliminated in the 5,000. Emma Coburn and Chrissy Gear, the top 2 finishers at USA's, eliminated in the steeplechase. Courtney Wayman, Elise Cranny, and Alicia Monson all move on to the finals. But it was rough for U.S. steeple fans tonight.
I mean, Emma Coburn, she was horrific.
She had a hamstring injury,
right? So that's what I'm saying. Because at the time before we talked to her, I'm like, "Is this party over?" I mean, that's what I'm starting to think. Because if you think about it, last year at Worlds not great, the Olympics not great. Tonight was horrific. She always makes the final. Today she was 10th, 9:41. I've never seen Emma Coburn run over 9:30. So, but she's like, look, I had a hamstring injury before USA's, but she did say, like, she's like, look, I ran whatever I ran at 9 USA's and the 9:10s teens, and I was terrible today, but like I think it was hard to overcome. So
She hadn't hurdled since USA's, and she said it hadn't been that bad when she was doing easy running, but she landed in the steeple pit the first time.
and
She just felt it, and she was like, "This is going to be a long
Look,
night."
So
Do I think she's going to medal again? No. Am I sticking a fork in her? No. I would have if I hadn't heard about this injury. But remember Jager? He didn't do anything for a number of years. And then what was he last year? 5th, 6th?
Sixth,
I
yeah.
think she could do that next year.
And-
Interesting. I did get some info from Natasha Rogers from talking to her. And I loved her comments. She's like, I learned a lot. I love being here. I'm like, what'd you learn? She's like, I need to get my butt kicked more often. She's like, competing in USA's is only so much. Like, I need to get in the diamond leagues, see what it's like at this level. So that was cool. I just love the mindset. But then she revealed some information. Next, I said, what's up next for you? She's like, half marathon. So why? Because she wants to qualify for the trials. So this to me reminds me of Molly Seidel. Like, watch out. If you were just thinking you were going to make the Olympic marathon team, this woman could definitely do it. And we're like, now my camera cut out. I lost the battery. So I'm not sure which part she's up on YouTube. They're like, why? She's like, well, my sponsors, they want marathoners. So she's sponsored by Puma now. I guess they signed her thinking she's going to be a great marathoner. She's going to do a half and then debut in the marathon, probably at the trials. So,
and well, I think it's great. I mean, oh man, once the Worlds comes over, we got the marathon season, and then it's right up to we got an Olympics next year, Olympic marathon trials. Like, oh, it's going to be just rolling for Let's Run.
But can we talk about the women's pole vault? I didn't watch this. I've been watching a lot of discus when I'm in the stands, but it was on the other side of the track. We're doing a lot of interviews, spent a lot of time in the basement today. I did see the one, Sandy Morris, like early, the pole vault was still going on. So Sandy Morris, like getting on a truck in the basement. I'm like, what happened to Sandy Morris? Sandy Morris went out early. I knew that much. And then I thought Katie Moon got the silver. And someone's like, no, she tied for the gold. Can someone explain to this? People are talking about it in the YouTube chat. We had another tie. This is an absolute joke. Look, why? Because they cleared the same mark. So what happens, John? You're the one that's defended this, I think, at some level of the high jump. So why don't all the competitors, when they show up, just agree to go 3 and out in the pole vault? They all miss their heights. And then they say, "Hey, do you guys want to? You girls want to tie for the gold?"
Well,
medal?
because you're intentionally taking this to an extreme that no one would take it to. You're trying to,
Right.
They
They
make
gave
a
it their
stupid
best.
point here. But no, look, the argument initially I was against it in the high jump, but then I'm like, the background between Tamberi and Boschim, it was a beautiful moment. And also the other thing about them, they had both been perfect through every bar until the one they missed. And this one is different. Nina Kennedy of Australia and Katie Moon, who shared the gold medal, they each had a miss earlier in their series. Kennedy missed her first attempt at 475. Moon missed her first attempt at 480. Then they both missed their first 2 attempts at 490 and both made 490 on the last attempt. At that point, I mean, they did have the same number of misses, which is why they were in position for jump off. But I don't know. It's not like the whole thing in the high jump was kind of, we beat the bar, basically. Like, we all made it through every height and we didn't have any failures. And that's why we're taking
Why is this considered a tie? Katie Moon's one miss, well, before the final 2 misses, was at a higher height than this other chick's. Katie Moon should be the champion. This should not be a tie. This is ridiculous. This is just kumbaya. We're all winners. So
No, actually, Nina Kennedy should be the winner. Her miss was low. Isn't that how you want to do it?
you missed it a high.
I thought the
she
rules
passed that
of
height.
the pole vault was whoever had the most recent miss, right?
It's how you did at the last bar. They both cleared on the first attempt, and then it's total misses.
No, they both cleared their final bar on the 3rd attempt.
Yeah. Or excuse
then
me.
it's
Yeah,
total
3rd
misses?
attempt, then it's total misses.
Oh, okay.
Wait, so in the high jump,
Oh, the Moon missed
John, they
it.
were both perfect, or they all bombed out, and then they were going to go to
No, they
jump
were
off?
perfect all the
No,
way
they were
through.
perfect until the height that they missed. They both missed all three attempts at the same height.
Yeah. So I guess it's slightly different today, but
Lame.
I don't.
I mean,
I mean, if you're
it's-
Nina Kennedy, it was sort of interesting. I don't know what was said. I didn't talk to any of them, but it looked like, they were essentially discussing the jump off, and I think Katie realized like we can tie, and you could see Nina, who's like got a bronze medal before, but not a gold. Like Katie, she kind of looks like smiling, like really, and then like hell yeah, I'll take it. Like,
If I'm a shoe exec, I'm putting that in there. No.
so
Robert's contract for pole vaulters will be if you're in a tie for the gold medal position at the global championships, you are not allowed to accept the tie. You must go for a tiebreaker. Otherwise, all right. I mean, I'm finding it hard to get all that worked up about it. I'd like there to be a champion in every event. One, it's cleaner that way. It makes sense to me, but I didn't talk to either of these women. I don't know the whole rationale behind it. I'm not exactly outraged by this decision.
Well, this is my last podcast from Budapest. Unfortunately, I'll be leaving for the airport in a matter of hours. I guess I'm going to miss the women's steeple final.
Robert, you're going to miss the
800
we got the
finals,
walks.
and
We
the
got
5,000.
35K walks start tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. If you miss your flight, you might be able to make it to Hero Square for those.
And the marathon. The walks are going to be beautiful. I'm a big fan of Hero Square. So,
Okay. Well, I think that's going to wrap it on Wednesday night from Budapest. We had an amazing, the 1,500. This
delivered.
worked out so great. I'm
we
glad
had a
we all
amazing
got to
day.
be
My
here
brother
for
was
it.
here. The supporters club turnout was amazing.
Yeah.
They should never have a Worlds in Eugene again during my lifetime, hopefully. Well, unless I live to be like 500, which would be amazing too.
But Phil, we love the stadium. We like the attempt. I mean, it was a good idea. I'm just shocked that there weren't as many people as we had last time, but
It was actually interesting talking to the people at the sports club. These are diehard track fans. Like, why didn't you go to Eugene? Like, we looked for hotels like a long time out, and we couldn't get one within like a 45-mile radius unless we wanted to pay like $600 a night. Okay, makes sense. Fair enough. So, all right. Be safe, people.
Thanks for tuning in. Loved meeting some of you today. Next time we do a meetup, I can't wait to meet even more of you. It was a great turnout. You're all lovely people. You're all the best track fans.
I don't think John even saw the fail. John was not a fan of the Burrito Track Club t-shirts, but
I didn't see anyone in a Burrito Track Club t-shirt.
I handed out the final two that exist in the world. They've never been handled. This guy from Denmark had bought them in June. I sent them to them. They wanted him to pay some exorbitant tax, and he refused it. So they sent it back to me. So I randomly just brought them. I thought, well, if I'm in the European Union, I can randomly. He said, don't worry about it. Fan of the podcast. I just randomly picked them up at the last minute. They were still in the package. So it came back. I'm like, when in the European Union, I can ship them to him. So I wrote him an email yesterday. He's like, I'm actually coming to the Supporters Club.
wow.
So there he was.
Okay.
But guys, wait, the biggest losers today could have been the bookies. Do they lose both bets on the high jump?
On the pole vault, you mean?
On the pole vault.
Well, I don't know.
That's what Brad Clams wants to know in the chat.
Oh my God, that's invalidated, right?
I think they both won. So that's great. Stick it to the books. But guys, I got how many more shows? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I got 4 more days of the world. I'm pumped. Robert, have a safe flight. John, you got to start getting some sleep.
I got to finish this 1,500 recap.
If you like
Hopefully
this,
it's a masterpiece.
I got to produce the podcast. Remember, join today's Supporters Club. You can save 20% on running shoes. You get a second podcast every week from us, daily podcast from Worlds. Signing off.